Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be telling you guys why I was in the hospital. And I just got out of the hospital yesterday. So hopefully you guys will like the video. And let's get started. Alright, so I started therapy over in this hospital about 15 minutes from my house. I started that in late March or early April. Doing physical therapy to strengthen my arms to get into a manual wheelchair and out of this power chair, and occupational therapy to help me do day-to-day tasks. But I started that, like I said, late March or early April, and I do it on Mondays and Fridays of each week. So this Monday, which would have been July 11th, I believe, I went over to therapy, and whenever we pulled in the parking lot, I had a hat on. It wasn't this one that I normally wear. It was a different one, and I started feeling a headache going on, and I was thinking, well, maybe it could be because of my hat. So I took my hat off, and I checked it and seen if it was tight and stuff, and it wasn't. So then I just went ahead and did therapy, physical therapy and occupational therapy both, and then whenever I got done with occupational therapy, which was second, I told my therapist that my headache was getting worse, and so then I left therapy and left the hospital, and on my way home, about halfway home, well, during therapy my legs were spasming like crazy, and I'd never had that many leg spasms before. And they're just spasming non-stop, so we kept having to push on the knee, to help them subside and calm down and relax. But on the way home, I kept having leg spasms, and I was hot, so we had the air on because it was hot outside, so we didn't want to roll down the windows. So I had the air on, and I was feeling a little dizzy, especially with the vehicles that we were passing that were coming toward us, and also, driving on the highway and seeing all the surroundings go by at 60 mile an hour. It was making me dizzy and stuff, and had me feeling bad. And then my leg spasms, and I was hot, and my headache was increasingly getting worse the more we got home, or the closer we got home. And then I started feeling like I couldn't breathe, right here on this side of my chest, and then over here on this side of my chest. It felt like it was tight to where I actually could not breathe in like I normally would be able to get enough air in my lungs. And it just felt like I couldn't breathe very good at all, and I was trying to take really big breaths, but I couldn't get them, and had the air going on me and everything. And we finally got home, and I went up the ramp, and I opened up the door, and I had this wheelchair on well, as indoor and as normal mode. I had it on normal, and I was trying to get inside as fast as possible to lay down because I felt terrible. And I opened up the door, and I went like this and went through the door, and I was about 3/4 of the way through and realized that my my leg had spasmed, and my foot had fallen off the footrest, and my foot was normally like this, but it was actually curled back to where this here was my heel, and my leg actually went up like that, but my foot was curled back because it got caught in the door frame. So luckily I realized that and stopped and backed up and put it back on the footrest. And so I transferred myself into bed, and then I had somebody catheterize me since I was feeling terrible. And I thought maybe it could be signs of autonomic dysreflexia, or AD, which is really severe, and is important to determine that you have it early, because it could actually be fatal. And it normally raises your blood pressure, which results in headaches, and most of the time it's because your bladder is full. So I was thinking that could be a cause. So once I got laid down, I had someone catheterize me, and we got the catheter in, and I was urinating pure blood in the catheter bag, and they told me that, so I told them to call 911, and they got the phone. They were hesitant about it, so I told them to call my local doctor, and so they did, and talked to a receptionist and told them the problem and told them that we needed to talk to a nurse or someone. Well, apparently they were a nurse and a receptionist both, and they said to either take me to a hospital or call 911. And so they called 911. I had them pull the catheter out because it was hurting, and then finally they got at my house about 20 minutes after we first initially called them, and they came in and asked what was going on. They brought the stretcher in there, and they took off the sheet, or they undone the sheet of my bed, and then they just picked it up and transferred me from my bed to the stretcher, and I had my pillow there, and they just used the sheet of my bed to transfer me on the stretcher, which I thought was pretty good. And they hooked up an IV, which I still have right here. This is actually a different IV, but same arm and stuff. They hooked up an IV, and then I told them I couldn't breathe at all, hardly, and I was like freaking out. And so they hooked me up to an oxygen thing where it goes through my nose, and to help me breathe, and that helped a lot. So we went over to the hospital that I did therapy at about an hour before, and I got into the emergency room, and they hooked Foley cath in me, which is basically a catheter that is in your bladder the whole time, and it goes all the way in your urethra and comes out into a bag, and whenever they insert it, after it's in your bladder, they eject saline, sterile water into this tubing that will blow up this balloon that's inside your bladder, so that way it actually won't come out of your bladder or your urethra, and so it'll stay in there. So they hooked me up to that, and had a bag on it, and they hooked the bag onto the hospital bed, and I was still urinating pure blood, and then they took some blood tests out of this arm right here, and I think they did another blood test out of my IV that the people in the ambulance hooked up, and then they took a urine test and put it into a like culture thing, which it would take like 48 hours to actually see the results of the culture for the urine, but they went ahead and did blood tests and everything, and then I went back and did a scan of my chest and my heart to make sure everything was all right. Actually, I think it was just a scan of my chest, and then I got moved up to the third floor, and went to the third floor and to my room that I just got transferred to, and then they wanted to do a scan of my heart to make sure it was working good, and so they hooked up all these like tubes and stuff to me and did a scan of that, like an EKG I think is what it's called. So I had one of those, and then the next day, well, I stayed at the hospital, and the next day I had another EKG done on me, where they tested out my heart and stuff to make sure it was still good, because they still couldn't really find the real problem. And then I had to do something where they put like this gel in here. I can't remember what that's called. I think whatever it's called whenever someone, an ultrasound or something, yes, that's what it's called. They did an ultrasound on my chest area to make sure everything was working in there, and it was. And then they did some more blood tests, and then I stayed another night. So now it's Wednesday. So I stayed Monday and Tuesday night, and then it's Wednesday. And then my doctor came in and told me what was going on. And my grandpa had actually told them the day before, whenever he had an appointment with the same doctor that was evaluating me, he told our doctor about me twisting my ankle. So my doctor had them do a scan or an x-ray on my ankle, and it looked good. And then after that, I stayed another night, so Wednesday night, and then Thursday when I woke up, the doctor came in the morning like he always does, and then normally a little bit afternoon to tell me everything, but he said that I had he called it a nasty bladder infection. He said that my walls of my bladder were actually lined with bacteria, and apparently it wasn't a UTI, so it wasn't like a urinary tract infection, which would actually be the tract of your urinary tract, so like your urethra, where you normally insert the intermittent catheters that I normally do every 5 hours. So it wasn't actually a urinary tract infection, but it was a nasty bladder infection is what he called it. So he put me on, like Monday when I was in the ER, they put me on antibiotics, just basically a general antibiotic, because they didn't know the actual disease or bacteria to fight off. So they just put me on a general antibiotic to try and, help it to where it wouldn't be as severe, and slowly try and heal it and get rid of the infection and bacteria. But then yesterday, which was Thursday, it would have been the 14th, I guess, they actually got the urine cultures back and put me on a different antibiotic. The first antibiotic started with a Z, and this new antibiotic started with a B. So he put me on that yesterday morning, I believe, or maybe it was Wednesday night. I think it was yesterday morning, so Thursday morning. And put me on that, and then yesterday, Thursday afternoon, probably about 12:30 or 1, they done the IV and took it out, and he said that I would have to come over there where the hospital is, right across the road, to have another IV hooked in my arm, but it actually wouldn't be hooked up to anything. It's just an IV like this, but this here is a thing to just cover it, like kind of like a sleeve to protect it. And I would have to go over there 10 days, or 7 days, I guess, because he counted the 2 or 3 days that I was on that antibiotic in the hospital. So I would have to go over there for 10 days basically, and I'm gonna go in the mornings. And I went over there today, and they put this IV on, and then they hooked me up to this thing that pumped the antibiotics in my arm, and that probably took about 20 minutes to do. And then I went and done physical therapy physical therapy and occupational therapy since today was Friday. And so now here we are. So now I got a Foley cath in, and I have to keep it in until the 10 days are up. So it would be next Thursday basically, when I get this IV out, and I will keep this Foley catheter in me until I get rid of the antibiotics. And we got a urologist appointment set up to talk to him for long-term plans for my catheterizing and my bladder and so forth, and see what they think about it, to get more in-depth information on it and stuff, to make sure everything is going good. So that is an update on why I was in the hospital. Thank you guys for watching. Hope this informed you a little bit, and if you could, go ahead and give this video a like, comment below, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It'll help me out a lot. And also spread the word, because I'd like to help other people with paralysis. I'm a quadriplegic C567 complete as of January 19, 2015. Go ahead and check out the description down below for all kinds of really good information and links to click on and read about me, and just other good websites to check out. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this helped you out. I'll see you in the next one.